Today's guest is Sashko Olenchenko. He's currently completing a master's in mathematical physics and carving out a nice little niche making YouTube videos about mathematics. But what sets Sashko apart is he's doing it from the Ukrainian capital of Kiev. His work occasionally interrupted by the need to evacuate underground to avoid Russian missiles and drones. The first part of today's episode will be about Sashko's life before university. The second half will be about his determination in the face of a pandemic and then a Russian invasion. Just for context and to understand a few parts of our conversation, I met with Sashko at a conference in Switzerland. It was the first time he'd been allowed outside Ukraine since the war began, and he is now back in Kiev.
I was born in Kiev, which is the capital of Ukraine. I was raised there together with my brothers, and all of my family is basically from Kiev or from the region. So we did travel a bit when I was young, but mostly spent time in Kiev. It was great, honestly. I think for most people, when you ask how was your childhood, most of them would answer like it was great because they were young and I was a child. Everything was like a miracle, of course. And I was born in that time, that period in Ukraine where everything was like more stable, I'd say.
Yeah.
So, and my parents were in a great situation back then, so it was super. I had a really great start to my life, I'd say.
But tell me about what you were like as a really little boy then, like as best you can remember. What would I have seen you doing and what kind of boy were you? Would you be in the street playing football or were you...
I grew up in a private house. That's why I didn't go to streets too much to play with other kids. I mostly played with my brothers in our yard, I was obsessed with fishing from a young age.
Fishing?
Yeah, my dad took me fishing one time and after that I would just lost my mind.
In rivers or lakes?
Yeah, because we have a great river in Kiev, Dnipro River. It's much bigger than any river you see in Europe. It's huge, and so it's a great opportunity to go fishing. And like every weekend, I would say, "Dad, please, can we go fishing?" "Oh no, it's raining, but please, maybe we catch something." So you'd mostly see me either talk about fishing or go to fishing.
You're obsessed with fishing?
Yeah.
This is the first time I've spoken to someone and that has been their childhood obsession.
Yeah.
What kind of fish do you catch in that river?
Mostly it's the same as in Europe. So like perch, pike,
Yeah.
common carp, if you're lucky.
Yeah.
And if you're really lucky, you can catch a catfish. Yeah, so there are not many huge fish in that river.
Why do you think you were so into fishing? Like, did you have a big catch on your first day that got you
No.
addicted? Or was there something about the process that appealed to your young brain? What was it about fishing you liked? Was it because you got to spend time with your father? Do you know what it was?
I think I always liked nature in the first place, and it was a great opportunity to spend time in nature. But also I liked this element of like challenge in fishing because you have to outsmart the fish almost. You have to catch it. It wasn't always successful. Sometimes we didn't catch anything, and sometimes I would cry after that because I was little. But at the end of the day, it was super fun and super great. I can't tell why exactly fishing, not like hunting. Maybe because my father was a fisherman, not like his job, but he was great at fishing even before I was born. So he taught me a lot. And when I now go fishing with my friends, I see that he actually told me a ton of things that they don't know. So I think it's partly about that.
If I went back in a time machine and met you as a child, would I have guessed that you were going to be a physicist or a mathematician? Or
Not
something?
at all.
No, you weren't like geeky or loving them?
No, absolutely not. So I was actually terrible at math and didn't have any interest in it when I was young.
Yeah.
So in my primary school, it was super hard for me because from the first year, my parents sent me to a school which is like advanced mathematics, just like my older brother. So for some reason, for him, it was super easy. He didn't actually need any help from my parents and he passed everything. For me, it was different. And my parents were like, what's happening? Like your older brother passed everything. And so they weren't angry on me or anything. It was new for them. After 4 years of primary school, you take a test. It's not like that if you don't pass the test, you're out of the school, but it's just there to help guide students So someone is better at mathematics and they go to math class. Someone is better at languages, they go to language class. So my parents really wanted me to go to math class, just like my older brother, just because in that school it was like the best class.
It had the prestige.
Yeah.
Right.
And I failed the test.
Right.
So I had to retake it. There was this option, and my dad really helped me to prepare for the test. I remember every day we go through many exercises, and in the end I passed, and I was the last child to enter this math class.
So you were like the last one through the door.
Yeah,
You just scraped in.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that? Because you told me you didn't have like a love of mathematics.
Yes.
And why did you even want to pass that test? Why not go and do the languages and the other things? Why was it just to please your parents or?
Well, I think I was too young to make a decision, and you had to pass the test anyway. You had to take it at least.
Yeah.
So if I take it, I might actually study and do good in this test.
Okay.
But there was no element of like, oh, I want to do great in this test. There was more like an element of, I just want to pass it. I just want it to end.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So as you continued if I'd gone to you at that point then as a boy, and you haven't started learning more yet in higher school, what do you think the little boy would have said if I said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" Would he have said a fisherman?
Yeah.
Fisherman. Okay.
100%.
Fisherman. I just want to fish. Sounds like you were obsessed.
Yeah. At some point, I was like, maybe fishermen don't earn that much.
No.
So I want to hold a shop with fishing gear. At least it's close to fishing, but earn much more.
Yeah, you wanted to run like a fishing, like a tackle shop.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's nice. You then went on, your education continued. I'm imagining at some point you started having an affinity for these subjects. Like what happens next on your education path?
Yeah, so it's super strange for me. I still have no answer to myself what happened to me. But in 5th, 6th and 7th grade, so 3 years after the test, I still hated math. It was super difficult for me. I had no enjoyment in it, and we had harder mathematics because math class.
Yeah.
And then something changed, and when I was like 13, 14, 15, not only in mathematics, but a lot of things in my life just changed. I started playing chess for some reason, which I also hated. I started doing sports. I did rowing. Again, my dad brought me there, but I loved it. And I became much more calmer. So I stopped fighting at school before I did.
Right.
And then at some point, I'm like, well, actually, math is not that bad. I'm not that bad in it.
As in you found it easier, or you actually started to get pleasure from it?
I think both. It took me some time to realize that I'm good at it, because I remember I have this memory. I don't quite recall what exactly, in which grade I was, maybe 7, maybe 8. Our teacher, she would choose students to go to math context. And she would go through the classroom and just, oh, you can go, then pass a few students, oh, you can go, pass a few students. And she passed me, she didn't want me to go.
This was to go to a competition?
Yes,
Right.
so she chose students who were good at math.
Yeah.
And I was not chosen.
Right.
And I was not offended by it at all, because I thought, yeah, I'm bad at math. But then came 9th grade. And in 9th grade, you again pass this test before going to 10th grade in mathematics. But this time it's different, because this test is the same for all schools. For mathematical schools, for non-mathematical schools, for language schools, it's the same for all. And since we studied mathematics on an advanced level, this test was super easy for me. And like I passed it with an A+, and suddenly I realized, well, I'm actually good at mathematics. And the reason why I was struggling all this time is because we had advanced topics in mathematics that children are not supposed to learn at this age normally. So I was like, wow, I'm actually good at it. And 10th grade, 11th grade, which is in Ukraine the last grade, you study for 11 years.
Yeah.
I didn't even have to prepare for any test. I passed them. I didn't do my homework.
So you'd been at such a high level school that you were a big fish, but you were in a big pond.
Yeah,
and suddenly you realize, hey, I am a big fish.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's also an element just it became more natural to me, easier. And I don't quite recall at what point, but at some point it became much more interesting.
So it's weird, isn't it? Like you can't remember an event or like an inspirational teacher. I wonder if it was biological or something. Who knows?
It could not be biological. I had no mathematicians in my family, no.
But I wonder if like, the wiring in your brain just changed anyway for some reason.
Yeah, kids grow up. A lot
Yeah.
of things change. The interests change. Sometimes they opposite become more like angry and stuff like that. Teenage years, For me, it was completely opposite. I don't know why. Yeah. So
Was your older brother still good at this stuff, or did he change paths?
he was even better at math than me.
Yeah.
He passed his final exam at school with a mark better than me.
Yeah.
But he switched. He went to sociology.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's like, in my family, we joke that he's like the one that can do anything but chose sociology, which is like not related to math. Like, you're good at it, you could do it. No, I do this.
Okay, so as you're getting towards the end of high school, you're realizing you're good at math, you enjoy it. What are you starting to think about your career now and your path?
So I never actually considered a career as a researcher. If you tell me back then that I'm going to be studying in master's program still in this field, I would be like, you're crazy. I actually had no idea what I want to do. I had no plan of who I want to work, what my job would be. I knew I wanted to study something related to math, maybe physics, maybe computer science, but less. You have plenty of time to decide. So normally in Ukraine in 11th grade, you have some time to decide, because I think it's UK, it's quite different because you send applications to universities quite early. So in Ukraine, you send applications in the summer after you pass your exams.
And you already know what your results are.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
And
okay.
you know what the competition is, you know the results of everyone else. So
That seems far more logical to me. It seems such a lottery in the UK that you've got to guess what marks you're going to get. And Anyway, so you had strong marks, obviously, right?
Very strong marks.
So you obviously had options.
Yes.
What option did you take?
I had two options: go to pure mathematics or go to physics. And the story is very funny because, first of all, I have one friend who finished his education in physics at the same university I ended up going to, and he convinced me to go to physics.
Which university is this?
Taras Shevchenko National University of Kiev. It's like the top university in Ukraine. It's in Kiev also. So he convinced me partly. And the second thought that I had is like, wow, I'm going to study pure maths. It's super interesting. I love it. But who am I going to work? What's my job? And then I thought, oh, I'm going to go to physics because physics has much better job opportunities. Engineer, I had it all mixed up that, this general thought that physics is applied to real world, so it's easier to find jobs, and mathematics is pure. You can't find the jobs. Who needs a mathematician? Turns out I was completely wrong. When I went to study physics, I realized it, especially because I went later on to theoretical physics. It's much harder to find the job as a theoretical physicist than as a mathematician.
So you chose physics.
Yes.
Maybe it was a mistake, maybe not, but you're doing it, and you gravitate towards theoretical physics too.
Yeah. So
how are you finding mathematics at this point? Are you still learning new mathematics, or have you kind of...
Oh, yeah.
You are, right.
Yeah, so my friend which convinced me to go to physics, he was really smart. He told me, I told him, so I don't know, maybe I should go to mathematics. I really loved it. And he have studied physics, so he tells me, first 2 years of physics education, you're going to study math.
Yep.
Anyway, so if you want to switch at that point, it's fine. So go to physics, you're not going to regret it, and he was correct. So first 2 years of physics education, you have some courses in physics, but mostly it's mathematics, like calculus, differential equations, linear algebra, you study all that. So I was super amazed by it. I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot of new stuff because when I was in school, I couldn't imagine what mathematics outside of school even looks like. Like we learned first derivative, second derivative. What do you go to university and you find the third derivative, or you find some harder integrals? I was like,
yeah.
And then I go to university and it's like so much new stuff. Like you learn about matrices, you properly learn about complex numbers, you learn how to combine calculus and complex numbers and matrices and all of that, and suddenly it's like this huge world opens up, and then it's even better when you can apply it in physics. So
Yeah.
I was amazed. Yeah.
Because I've always had the impression that math education in that part of the world you're from is more rigorous
Yes.
than the mathematics that people in the UK or the US might experience at school level. But even so, it's still a real change of gears when you go to university.
Yeah, even more in physics, because in school it's more vague physics because you don't know a lot of mathematics. For example, in classical mechanics, it's built on differential equations, and you cannot teach differential equations to school students. They don't know enough. And so when you go to university, you start from scratch. Like, forget all the physics you knew in school. We'll start from beginning, do it properly. So it's a huge change.
Tell me more about the start of university for you then.
Yeah, so it was very challenging because it was 2020, just when the pandemic started, and all the courses were online. I had no idea who I was studying with. They had no idea about me.
You mean you fellow students?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was lucky that I made one friend with the guy because we had a course in mechanics. Normally, without COVID, you would just go to a lab and do some experiments and write down the conclusions, stuff like that. You do it in pairs. But since it was online, we would just watch the videos of the experiments and also analyze them. And we also did it in pairs. But you have to find your partner by your own. So like you're not assigned. And I'm like looking, okay, I'm scrolling through the chat.
Like online dating.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm scrolling through the chat, looking at profile pictures of people, and I see this guy. His name is Andriy, and like he's not taken. He doesn't have a lab partner yet. I'm like, I hope he's a great guy. I really hope. I write him. So do you want to make? And now we are best friends. He was amazing.
Cool.
Yeah. So, but overall the start was challenging, and I won't say I regret because I did nothing wrong. It was not my
Fault.
yeah, thank you. Not my fault that it was a pandemic.
Yeah.
But it's a great shame because I look at people who go to the first year of university now and they are so happy. They make so great friends. Unfortunately, I didn't have that.
Obviously, you paid a heavy price socially, friendships and the fun of university. Yeah. Do you feel like your education suffered much?
It did suffer, but not too much, because I was highly motivated to study. It was super interesting for me. I know people who dropped out after one semester because they lost their motivation, basically, but it was not the case for me. I always felt the same, that if you actually want to study it, you will find a way, even in hard times. No one's preventing you from reading a book or trying to solve some exercises by yourself. You can't blame pandemic for, oh no, like my pen disappeared because of pandemic, I cannot solve equations. No, it's not true. You can always find ways. So I was fortunate enough that I was still very motivated and I studied hard, and that's why I think I got a great base in first years of university. But again, at that point, if you ask me, would you become a researcher? I say no.
You said you're highly motivated.
Yeah.
What was motivating you? Were you motivated by just a thirst to know more about physics and math? Or was it just you're someone who likes to succeed and that motivates you? Or you want to get a good job? What was motivating you?
Partly it was the fire that was brought up in me when I was in school. Partly by your videos on Numberphile and or another channels or channels on YouTube about mathematics and physics, because they talked about great topics and it was super fun, but there were some things that I just did not understand. And I was frustrated with it. I have to learn this, I have to understand it properly, especially in physics. For example, I had seen a lot of videos talking about double slit experiment in physics, very famous. So I'm like, it's so interesting. I have to know what they're talking about. So I had the burning desire. I have to study. And at some point I will understand. And after some time, I rewatched some videos. I'm like, oh, I now get what they're saying. I like not only words, but I get the equations. And I felt super happy. And that's really what motivated me to learn more. And the more I learned, of course, the more I learned what I don't know. So even more motivation for me. So after 2 years of university, you have to choose a department which you go to. First 2 years, everybody studies the same things. After 2 years, you have to choose a department. Someone goes to like biophysics. Someone goes to super theoretical stuff. Someone goes to experimental physics.
So this is all within the branch of physics, but it's more of a specialization.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, so I'm choosing where to go. I choose the Department of Theoretical Physics, and they had a program called something like quantum computers and stuff like that. I was not really into quantum computers, but I thought, okay, it's the Department of Theoretical Physics. I guess it's the most natural place for me to go.
Why? Why is that the most natural place for you?
Oh, because I hated experimental physics.
Right, okay.
I was bad at experiment, first of all, and second of all, it's much more math in theoretical physics, obviously, so yeah.
Okay.
That was my choice.
So you've gone into theoretical physics. You're specializing.
Yes. When the third year of university starts, September, we finally end online studying. We go to lectures, we see each other, we see professors for a month. Because then the pandemic actually again started to increase. The cases of COVID in Kiev started to increase, and they closed it again until New Year. So we are online again in the first semester, almost all of it. Start of the second semester, kind of same thing. We go for a few weeks, and I have this memory. I stand with my friends outside the physics building department, and we were chatting, and someone says, "Oh, you know, there's this rumor that tomorrow we will get closed again." And I'm like, no, there's no way. They will like prepare us for it. It's not like one day, boom, and we're closed. So some people that I talked to on that day, on that evening, when we were standing outside this building, and next day we actually got closed, and I've never seen them after.
You never saw them again?
So a month after that, the war started. Yeah, so it got closed again. So not only it got closed, but the education stopped for some time. We didn't have even online lectures.
So those people that you never saw again, why did you never see them again?
Most of them, they just evacuated out of the country. And with some of them, I just lost contact because they left the university. I remember that the first day, 24th of February, when the war started, we actually had one online lecture in electrodynamics because the professor was really strict. He's like, I don't care what's happening, we still have a lecture. Of course, at that point, nobody was taking it, like, nobody understood how serious it is and that it would take so long, and it's not a joke. So we still had the lecture. I listened to it in my basement.
So you have this one final lecture. Education stops because of
the war, the invasion.
The invasion. What happens to your education? When does it restart? At this point, what do you think's going to happen? I guess as things get more and more serious, as the days and weeks go by, maybe you think this is the end of the world. Who cares about my education? What are you thinking about your education at this point?
I'm not thinking about my education at all at this point. So a few days after the war has started, the invasion has started, we were afraid that the Kiev, our city, would be taken.
Because they thought Kiev would fall in days, didn't they?
In 3 hours, they thought.
Yeah.
So my family evacuated to Western Ukraine in our car. And so we stayed there with our relatives for a month, I think, or a month and a half, maybe. The education was still stopped. Of course, I did not think about it because I was busy with volunteering there. I would help to redirect the aid that was coming from the Europe. So we would send them to front lines and to people who really need it. So this was all I cared at that point. When the situation got a bit better, when the Russians left Kiev region and neighboring regions, we thought for a week maybe we should go back, maybe we should try, and in the end we did.
Back to your home, your family home.
Yeah. I remember the evening when we arrived. We were super tired, but we finally opened the door to our home. We enter, and this smell was like, what smells? And then we realized that the potatoes that we have in our basement grew.
Okay.
It was humid and they grew, and the smell of potatoes was all over the house. Yeah, I have this memory.
Right.
Yeah, but soon after that, they continued the education, of course.
So the university sort of restarted, and
it was all online, obviously, and it was quite different because, for example, they understood that some people left the country and maybe entered a different university. They understood that some people live in regions where there's active war, so they could not study, and they made cases for them, made opportunities for them to maybe delay their study or something like that.
Yeah.
So, and you could tell by the video images of professors that gave the lectures that situation is bad because they were super tired. They were like unshaved and stuff like that. So didn't care about physics too much at that point. So, but we continued. So I have to mention that when the war started, first thought is like, okay, are we going to university tomorrow or will be lectures tomorrow? Then at some point understand, okay, tomorrow is too early, no lectures tomorrow, maybe next week. Then you understand, oh, okay, next week no, maybe 2-3 weeks. It was like a joke going around after that, that everybody thought that it will end in 2-3 weeks, because it's if you tell people at the start of something like that it's going to last for years, they will just break down.
Yeah.
So we were told that it's like 2-3 weeks or maybe a month, and we're like, okay, we could do that. And after a while, it was clear that it's not going to end soon, maybe half a year. Then it was clear that it's going to be more than a year, and now it's absolutely unclear when it will end at all. But we learned how to deal with it.
So there's almost an attitude, well, this war's not going to end for a very long time, so we may as well start education again, otherwise we'll never start it.
Absolutely.
Right.
So some students were strongly against it. They said no education until like completely the war ends. But soon they realized that they were wrong, because, as you said, it will never start if you don't start now. Yeah, so...
Tell me what happens. You get your degree?
Yep.
Yeah?
Actually, I found it... I liked studying during this period because my thoughts were about physics and not about the situation around me. It was great. So when the invasion happened, I had 2.5 years to finish my degree, and I contacted my advisor. We started working together on a problem in astrophysics. We studied dark matter, how they form like these structures around galaxies, and it was kind of fun. But soon I realized it's not my thing. I want to do something more theoretical, because it was mostly simulations. You had to write code, and I'm like, okay, I came to do physics, I like mathematics, and what I'm doing 90% of the time in my work is writing code. That's not for me. So closer to the finish of my bachelor's degree, I decided I have to change things. I have to do what I like. So I find another professor he was not from university, he was from an institute of theoretical physics, and he did mathematical physics. So I contact him, ask him, could I do master thesis with you? So he wasn't a great fan of this idea, because he did not have problems for master students. He had some PhD students, so his studies were pretty advanced. Yes, so we ended up meeting up with him, and it was fun, because I thought, he said, come to institute, we'll have a chat. I thought, okay, maybe he'll talk about something that he's researching. Maybe he'll give me some books to read, or maybe some papers. I came there to institute. I meet him, and he asked me some questions about my bachelor's work and what I'm interested in. And then he goes, "Oh, can you compute an integral of this and this?" And I was like, "Oh." But then
What, as in you froze up? Can I do it?
Yeah. The integral was actually pretty easy, but I froze up, because why is he asking that? So I ended up solving the integral and some other problems that he gave me. Some of them I couldn't solve, but because I was not taught this in university, so he really asked some stuff about elliptic functions. I recall that I did not learn before. But he ended up accepting me, and we were doing...
You made the right impression.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fortunately, yeah.
So you finish your bachelor's degree in theoretical physics, and then you go and do a master's.
Yes,
under this professor at an institute.
Yes. So, but I do my master's in another university, not in Taras Shevchenko University, actually in Kiev Academic University, which is a lot smaller, a lot more local. But it's a lot more research-driven than the previous one.
And where are you at now with that? Are you still doing the masters, or have you finished it?
Yes, I'm in my second year. Mm-hmm.
You're in the second year of doing this masters in physics. And what kind of physics do you specialize in?
Mathematical physics, conformal field theory.
Conformal
field theory.
Okay, and how would you describe that to someone at a pub who doesn't know anything about mathematics?
So I think you heard about fractals. You should have.
Yes.
So when you zoom in, it doesn't change a whole lot. So there are actually physical systems like that. For example, some magnets at a critical temperature, they behave similar to that, and at this point they are described by this conformal field theory. Conformal means that they have this extra symmetry that you could scale up or scale down and nothing changes. It's not only applicable like to real physical systems, but it's actually super interesting from a mathematical point of view. It's very rich.
So these last many years now that you've completed your education and started a master's has all been under the shadow of this conflict and this constant risk that your country is under. What's that like, and how does it affect your education? Like, tell me what a day is like. Is it rare that the conflict actually you see something like an explosion or damage, or is it every day you see something? Like, how present is it in your mind and physically in your world?
It's constantly somewhere in your mind, maybe in the back. Sometimes you don't think directly about it, but it's always in the back. For example, right now in many cities in Ukraine, you could not be outside from 12 a.m. to 5 a.m. So because at night you might work as a spy and take photos of some critical infrastructure, and it will get bombed. So you're not allowed to go outside at night, and you constantly have to think about it because you have to get home somehow before that. That's just one example. So about more, do I see it? Of course, like not every day, but every week there is a huge bombardment of Kiev, basically.
Where you live, will you hear that?
Yes.
Yeah.
We hear explosions, we hear drones flying above our house frequently. It sounds super scary and super crazy, but when it happens a lot of times, you just get used to it.
Like a train passing your house, except it's a drone with explosives.
A little bit scarier, because sometimes you hear like and you're like, okay, it passed, and sometimes you hear like and you hear that it's going down,
descending.
Yeah, right. Like I hope it doesn't hit my house.
How often are you like going into bunkers and basements and metro stations, and how often are you having to take cover?
About once every week or twice a week.
Yeah.
Because most of shellings happen at night, so it's harder to I don't know how to say it, to kill the drones in the sky, so to
just intercept them.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
So so right now it's about once or twice a week. So I'm lucky that my family lives in a private house and we have a basement. So for me it's not hard to go downstairs, and just we set up some beds there. So even if it's at night, we could go down and have some sleep. Not ideal because it's still loud outside. But for some people, for many people, actually for most people, it's not as easy to go down to basement. They have to take shelter in metro stations, and you can imagine, especially in winter when it's super cold, you wake up at 3 a.m. because there's an air raid alarm going out, and you put your coat on your pajamas, go to the metro, sit there, of course, no sleep, and it's terrible. Some people consciously do not take cover. They say my sleep is more important. They just so fed up with everything. They're like, okay, today I'm gonna sleep. I just hope it doesn't hit my house.
So many people have left the country with good reason, and you mentioned many of your university friends. Why have you not left? Why are you still living in the center of this city that's under attack?
So the main reason is I was not allowed to. When the war starts, all men above 18 cannot exit the country. But I think it's the same in every country in the world. When the war starts, you close the border for men. So I was not allowed. In this August, in the end of August, they passed a new law which said if you're 18, 19, 20, 21 or 22, so below 22 years old, you could enter. I'm 22, so I'm lucky enough. I could exit the country, but I did not run away. I just went on to see my brother who lives outside Ukraine. He traveled out before the war started, not for this purpose, but he actually went on a vacation, and when the war started, he stayed there because it was important for us to have someone there in case things go very, very wrong in Ukraine. We could go to him.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks ago was the first time I seen him from the start of the war. It was really heartwarming for me.
Is it possible that you could be conscripted and called up to serve in the military at the moment?
Personally, me not, because I'm 22. So men above 25 and above are drafted.
Okay.
When the war started, it was, I think, 27, 28, but they lowered it. And actually, some people say you should lower it to 18. By some people, I mean people in Europe, because like, why you have a war, you have to fight, but it's much more difficult situation, because you have to understand that being a soldier is a profession, just like being like a mathematician. Like imagine taking a person out on the street, dragging him and saying, you're now a mathematician, you should do research. Would he be a great mathematician? No. It's kind of the same with military. Of course, we are forced to do it, to defend ourselves, but most of the time it's better when people come themselves. And when the war started, there were huge waves of people who volunteered to be soldiers. There were crowds, queues to just people saying, please give me like some weapon and I will go fight. Of course, it declined with time, but the people who went back then, if they survived until now, they are super great soldiers because they have a lot of experience.
A lot of people have a lot of disadvantage and bad luck in their life, and you have had a lot of privilege. It sounds like you had a good education, good parents, you had and things like that. So in many ways, you're lucky. So I'm not suggesting otherwise. But in many ways, you seem terribly unlucky.
Oh, absolutely.
Your education was like devastated by COVID. And then just when you finally came out of that, things have been devastated even more.
Yes.
In ways I can't imagine.
Yes.
Do you feel like unlucky, or do you feel angry about that, or resentful, or what's your emotion about this streak of misfortune that you seem to have run into?
I never think about it as misfortune. I don't believe in fortune at all. I think about it as a challenge which you have to endure. I think if you have a goal in your mind, despite all the challenges, even such challenges as invasion or COVID or something like that, if you're highly motivated and you love what you do, you can get through them. And if you constantly think, I'm super unlucky, why did it happen to me? Why didn't it happen to someone else? Why? You're not getting anywhere. You have to stop thinking that and go with your life. Of course, sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you have to be sad. Sometimes you need someone to tell you that, the situation is hard, you're doing a great job. So sometimes, yes. But most of the time, what I think is that life goes on. Yes, the war is still going on. But when I wake up tomorrow, the sun still rises, the birds still fly. I can enjoy that at least. So, yeah, it might seem a bit crazy. And I have to say that it's really hard to explain to someone who has never seen war with their eyes what it's like. It's kind of like trying to explain to someone who was born blind what it's like to see. It's super hard, and I say it because I remember myself before the war, who I was and what I was thinking about the world. When the war started, everything changed. And I don't blame people who didn't see war that they can't understand me.
I know what you just said. You just said it's impossible for someone who hasn't seen it to understand it. So I feel stupid now asking you this question. But can you tell me something? Can you tell me one thing I just don't understand? That you look at me and think, you can't see this, Brady. You don't. I know you can't make me understand, because the only way I can understand is to live it. But can you just tell me one thing, or one half of a truth, or one insight that you just look at me and think, you can't see this, Brady? What is something?
So it's much harder to leave your hometown and leave your family than to endure rocket attacks and war. So most people prefer to stay, not because it's easy, but because it's in their heart. They feel like if I leave, everyone whom I left there is in trouble. And I feel it right now when I'm in Europe and when I hear news that there was a shelling of Kiev. I immediately text my mom, my dad, is everything okay? So, and I know it's okay. Most of 99.999% it's fine. And they worry a lot less than I do when I'm here. And when I'm in Kiev, I also worry a lot less because I'm used to it than people in Europe. For example, my brother who lives in Europe, he would often ask us, so is everything fine? He also got used to it with some time, but people outside Ukraine often do this. They ask how do you even do this? How do you live there? And the thing you have to understand is that humans are very adaptive. Even when things are super, super wrong, but it persists with time, you just adapt to it. You just, okay, it's the new reality. I guess it's fine when the drone hits a building a couple 100 meters away from me. Well, what can I do? I have to keep on living.
But you're saying this sort of attachment to family strengthens in ways that is hard to understand.
Yeah. So not only to family, like in general, people became very, very bonded together by this conflict, especially at the start. So like normally we like to fight between each other because like we have this fire in us. But when the war started, we really, really found ways to collaborate, and people who normally would hate each other, now they fight in the same group. I try not to think about it in a way like, oh, people in other countries are living their lives, they're doing what they want, they don't have to worry about a raid this night or something like that. But then, like, okay, I lived for 18 years of my life in the same situation while there were wars in other parts of the world, and I did not worry about them. So I guess it's just how it works.
I can't imagine that. But one thing we do have in common is we both make YouTube videos.
Oh, yeah.
And you started this a bit more recently, and you've started it in such interesting circumstances. Tell me about why you started making YouTube videos, what you're doing, what it's called. Like, talk me through that now. Let's go. When did this start, and how, and what's going on?
So my YouTube channel about math and physics is called Aramath. It's quite stupid name, I have to admit, but as you said in your talk yesterday, you had to think about the name. I did not, because I never could anticipate that it will grow. I started it on May 22nd, 2022, so it's 3 months after the start of the war.
You started it after the war. Had you moved back to Kiev? So
yes.
after you moved back to Kiev,
yes,
the family took the decision, all right, we're gonna brave it and go back to our home. And then you were like, I'm going to start a YouTube channel.
Oh yeah, it was almost like that. So I had this idea, but I thought like, okay, maybe on summer holidays I'll have more time and I maybe start something. But then one morning I remember I wake up and like, no, I can't hold it anymore. I set up my phone on like a couple of books stacked on a chair.
Yep.
And I had this small whiteboard and I have some crappy markers. And I just found some problem online, some equation, hit record, write something, post it on YouTube. My little brother actually helped me to record. He loves filming, he's into that, and he likes editing videos, so he helped me a lot, thank him.
Yeah.
So that was how my first video was published.
Why did you want to make YouTube videos? Why, there must be so much in your head at the moment. There's so much load on you. Why suddenly do you want to make YouTube videos?
I think there are several reasons. One is that I always loved watching them on YouTube, other channels like Numberphile, also Michael Penn, he's from America, I think. Super nice channel, obviously 3 Blue and Brown, Vsauce, I love them. So partly it was like I want to copy them. Partly it was because after the invasion started, there was a huge wave of Ukrainian culture rising back. Music, podcasts, YouTube videos, films, stuff like that. And I was really inspired by it. So this is why my channel is in Ukrainian and will always be. And another reason is that maybe I did not realize it at the moment, but it was some kind of escape for me because I could think about my videos and not think about the hard stuff. So it was a way for me to escape.
So tell me about the videos. What's tell everyone about the videos. Tell us about the format. Is it still you in front of a whiteboard with a phone on a pile of books, or?
Luckily not.
No? Okay, what happens now?
So now I'm doing more animations, which are similar to Grant's in 3 Blue and Brown.
This is Grant Sanderson. He's got an incredible YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And he really has encouraged other people to adopt some of the software and the stuff he's using to make animations.
Yeah, so he created this Python library and he made it open source, so you can use it. There are actually a lot of channels on YouTube in English which use this. That's why their videos look so similar to 3 Blue and Browns, and a lot of people think they steal videos from him, and a lot of people think that I do this. Actually, I had several commenters who said, oh, you're just translating his videos into Ukrainian. I'm like, no, I'm just using the same library, it looks the same. So, but the process of coming to making animations and stuff like that was gradual. So for a long time, my videos were like that: me in front of a camera, writing on a first a whiteboard. Then after a year, I made myself a present on my birthday. I bought a huge blackboard and hang it in my room, and bought chalk. And I wrote. Now I had an upgrade. I wrote on a blackboard. But it's also it was also the time when I started like doing animations. So there are not a lot of videos on my channel where I use the blackboard, unfortunately.
Right, there was just a small window.
Yeah, you could sometimes see in the background. I sit in front of it. I still use it, but I don't write it that much.
And what are you trying to achieve with these videos? Is it just, you mentioned a kind of a national pride and wanting to put a stake in the ground for Ukraine. Is it beyond that? What are other things why are you doing it? Do you want to become a millionaire, or do you want to change the world and make everyone a mathematician? What's your goal?
So I have to admit, my primary goal is that I just love it. I want to do it. It's a desire in me to share things that I'm interested in. And a lot of my videos are on topics that are interested to me. So that's why they maybe are not viewed as much, because if I wanted to, I could make videos on like super popular topics like Euler formula. Wow, let's learn it. Everybody heard it or something like that. But I choose to do videos that are interesting to me at the moment. Another reason is that, as you mentioned, yes, I want to contribute to Ukrainian culture, to make a difference, because as far as I know, please, if someone knows better than me, correct me, but my channel was the first channel in Ukrainian language which was about popularizing mathematics. There were a lot of channels before me about education in mathematics, so like prepare for this exam or stuff like that, but there were no channels about popularizing math.
Just to the general public.
Yeah, so now there are some channels apart from mine, so it's great. I know some people who do these videos. We are great friends.
Yeah.
And but this element persists. To like, I want to contribute. I want to do something.
Who are watching the videos? I know as much as anyone that you never really know completely who's watching, but you must see comments and get messages and feedback. Are these mainly being watched by people in Ukraine, or Ukrainians who are living outside, or what are you hearing and what are you seeing? What feeling are you getting for who's watching the videos?
Yeah, so obviously, since the videos are in Ukrainian, most of the people watching are from Ukraine. Considering who exactly watches them, it's strange, because the place where I get recognized most are universities, recognized by professors, not by students,
right.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
So my target audience is a bit off. I wanted to make videos for high schoolers like myself back then, to interest them in mathematics, to maybe help them make a decision to go to study it. It's not my primary goal, but it's big. But mainly people from Ukraine and mainly people from academia. So unfortunately, it's something that I have to learn, how to make videos for more general public, not too complicated. So I try to. I know that my grandma watches my videos, so at least one person outside of mathematics, and also my mother and my father. So
excellent.
At least 3 people outside from mathematics are watching my videos.
What about your brothers?
Oh, sometimes they also do. Sometimes they and my friends, they tell me like, I click on your video, I watch a few seconds, I don't understand anything, I turn off the sound, and I turn the speed to 0.25, so it's slower, so that you get more watch time. So they're helping me in this way.
Do you get more watch time if people slow it down?
I have no idea.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. How much is your time divided between making the videos and developing your channel and your masters?
My education takes more time right now, but in summer I have more time to work on my channel, so I don't know the precise number of hours I work per week, and I don't think there is one. Sometimes I feel super motivated. I can work 5-10 hours a day. Sometimes I don't feel that motivated, especially right after I upload a video. I feel like, okay, I have to take a small break before I move to the next one. But yeah, it's definitely not the first priority. I still devote time to it. I try to do at least something every day. Maybe 20 minutes of writing the script is fine. I try to do it every day, but it's not the first priority.
Where do you see your future? And are you optimistic about the future? It's so hard to ask someone that question when their country is under siege. But where do you see yourself as a great physics professor? Do you see yourself as a world-famous YouTuber? Are you hopeful about where things are going? Are you hopeful about the future for your country?
Yes, because if I wasn't, I would go crazy. And if you ask anyone in Ukraine, they will answer you the same. Of course, you have to be realistic, that you have to understand that perhaps not always the things that you want are the things that actually happen. But we are all optimistic. We know that we will never stop fighting. It's just a problem. Maybe at some point we just run out of Ukrainians. About my future personally, I'm optimistic. I know that no matter what happens, I have things that I love doing, and I have people that support me. Even if the situation globally is super bad, if I continue doing things that I love, I will be in a great place.
One last question. I know things are difficult in your city. Do you still go fishing?
Of course. Not as often, but I do.
You go down to the river?
Yeah, we went fishing with my friends this summer, and we were super lucky. We caught a lot of fish. It was one of the best memories of this summer, maybe of this year.
Thanks to Sashko for sharing his story. Please do check out his YouTube channel and show him some much deserved support. I'll link to it in all the usual places. Yes, it's in Ukrainian, but YouTube's auto translations are pretty good, and I've watched some with totally passable English subtitles. I'm Brady Haran, and you've been listening to the Numberphile podcast.
На цьому на сьогодні все. Дякую, що дивилися відео до кінця. Сподіваюсь, воно було не надто сумбурним і допомогло вам розібратися у математиці, що стоїть за квантовою механікою. Якщо відео вам сподобалось, не забувайте підтримувати його вподобайками та коментарями, а також підписуйтесь на канал.